sports are perhaps the ultimate human endeavor. At least for the foreseeable future, robots are not going to replace our athletes on the field. And our reaction to sports is probably the most human of experiences. It's emotional, it's visceral. We wear our fandom on our sleeves. So, what does the head of fan experience at ESPN think about generative AI and its place in their customer care operations? You don't have to be a sports fan to check out this episode. Stay tuned for the entire conversation. Let's get to my conversation with Doug Kramon, who is ESPN's head of customer care and fan experience, on this episode of the Bridgecast.
Tech has reshaped our reality, redefining how we live, work, and connect. And driving this revolution, real people with bold ideas. Welcome to the Bridgecast, where host Scott Kinka has in-depth discussions with the brightest minds in tech. Together, they tackle the future of work, innovation, entrepreneurship, and navigating the new realities of AI and hybrid work. These conversations will give you the insights and strategies to stay ahead, both in business and life. The Bridgecast is a service of Bridgepoint Technologies. As the nation's leading tech advisory and consulting firm, Bridgepoint is disrupting the way businesses make and manage their technology and customer experience investments. We invite you to experience the better way, the Bridgepoint way. Now, here's your host, Scott Kinka.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Bridgecast. I am thrilled to have with me Doug Kramon. He is ESPN's head of customer care and fan experience. That's a mouthful. Did I get the title right, Doug?
You did. Yeah, we'll go with that. I appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. I'm thrilled to talk to you today, especially as you're super busy right now. This will probably come out in a couple of weeks, but we are filming this directly in the middle of the college football playoff, which I'm sure has got you guys very busy.
This is one of our busiest times. We're very proud of the CFP and the college football championship, especially with the expansion that just took place this year.
Yeah.
So never a dull moment in what I do this time of year.
I love that. I have a one Penn State alum and one who's there right now, so I'm thoroughly enjoying it myself. And of course, we're heading into the NFL playoffs, which my fandom is very well illustrated. I don't know if the camera's catching on my Eagles gear above, so super excited about that. But let's start there because it's super interesting. Your role. What does fan experience mean? I mean, that's in the title. Normally when I talk to CX executives, it's all about customer experience, customer support, customer care. Fan experience is right in your title. That's conscious, obviously. What does that mean to you?
So fan experience is about being both somewhat of a know-it-all because you love something and a love-it-all, right? So fan experience, when you're a fan, you're passionate about something, a team, a player. You could be a fan of anything. It doesn't have to be sports related, right? You could be a fan of an author, for example. It really doesn't matter. However, it means that there is an emotional connection that you have with someone or something that is a positive one. And that's our job, to maintain that emotional connection, make it stronger if and where possible, and always make sure that we, for what I do, happen to make you a better type of fan. And I'm sure we'll talk about some other things. You and I have discussed the silly term we use, fans in the stands, suits in the suites, and we can get to that. But, there's different types of fans. And so customer experience, what we call fan experience, is one where we're able to bring the fan closer to what they love.
Yeah. I mean, the fan really in your world is understanding your customer persona. Give us that statement again. You said fans in the stands, suits in the suites. What
That's
do you mean
correct.
by that?
So we always say that our department services the fans in the stands and the suits in the suites. And I did not coin this term. It was a fellow ESPNer, Barry Blinn, who did. And it is an excellent term. The needs of the fans in the stands can be different than the needs of the suits in the suites. And as such, it really represents the fact that they're all fans of the game that's going on, the sporting event, the story that it tells. Now we're ESPN. We tell the story around the story. The story is the sporting event, right? The live sports. Live sports is a great storyline that you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Well, ESPN is not the sport, it's not the game, but we are the context around it. We bring the fans as close to that event as possible. And the needs of some fans are very different than the needs of others. And as such, it's the job of my team to support them all, from those that happen to be, conceivably, as we'll say, in the $2,000 seats to those that are in the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
And their needs across all different ESPN products happens to be very different. And we have to support them all as if they're all number one.
Doug, how long have you been in your current role?
The role has evolved through
Yeah.
the years. I've been at ESPN now just under 20 years,
Wow.
but the role has continually grown. And my work within the company, within both ESPN and the Walt Disney Company, has grown. So it continually evolves, and that's part of why I love it so.
Can you trace a little bit of that history for us? I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people watching this right now going, he's got the gig of all gigs. He's an ESPN, take care of everything. Like, how did you land where you landed? Give us
Sure.
and maybe a nugget from that, something that you learned along the way that maybe you wish you knew quite a long time ago, in that journey.
So landing here was a unique time. It was right after the initial .com boom.
Okay.
So, but when you major in Native American archaeology, cultural anthropology, um, you of course go into sports. It's just the natural thing you did. So that was my major.
Okay.
I had no intention of doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah,
I
of course.
wanted to work for Sotheby's or Christie's or Bonham's or one of the auction houses and really study art, archaeology to a degree, and native cultures, Native American cultures. And there was no Antiques Roadshow back when I graduated, so the opportunities were limited. And doing grad school at SMU, which got bounced from the college football playoffs very quickly, unfortunately.
Sorry
Um,
about that, by the way. I
yes,
was there. It was
I,
fun.
so with that, you know, I recognized that I would have to get my PhD. So halfway through continuing education, I just said, how am I going to pay any of this stuff back as an archaeologist? That's just, whereas you speak to folks today, many of them think I dug up dinosaurs, and that's paleontology, and that's totally different. So
Right.
it didn't go very far. So I had the opportunity. I always liked tech, and early tech, and mobile was new back then. Mobile technology in the mid '90s, and I had an opportunity to start with the predecessor to AT&T Wireless and learn the ins outs and abouts of the mobile industry, and I was very fortunate. So I learned mobile technology, and then at AT&T had the opportunity to go to become a member, work, I guess, take courses at the AT&T School of Business, which is like a mini master's degree
Yeah.
on learning how to do certain things. And I selected how to build contact centers. So I learned how to do that. And in
Yeah.
return, they said, you will build contact centers where we tell you, and you will live there. And I did. I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, built contact centers down there, moved to Fenton, Missouri, did some work there. And I really learned how to do something that, again, I never had any intention of doing. But through that, staying with technology, contact centers and customer service are always a part of what I did. Let's go to 2005, right before the iPhone launched. Disney decided to launch a mobile phone. ESPN was coming out with its own phone. And before the iPhone, before app landscapes, you had to have the only one app on one phone, and the phone was dedicated to that. So, like
Hmm.
MTV had a phone, we had a phone, or I think VH1 had a phone. The whole idea was a bit wonky, and it lasted for about a year. And then the iPhone
Yeah.
came out and put it all out of business. But ESPN came a calling and said, hey, we need to make a customer care dynamic for this mobile experience. and I was working in telecom datacom technology back then, and I made the jump, and it was so much fun. The opportunity to build something from scratch that is all about the sports fan, and I say this: what I love so much about what I do is understanding the sports fan. In college, I talk about this periodically in talks that I do. The bedside ethnologist. When I was in college studying Native American cultures, oftentimes to get Native Americans had no written text, and because of
Yeah.
that, there's no real way you can study their history like you could with the Greeks, the Mycenaeans, the Etruscans, the Romans. You couldn't really do that with the Native Americans, and as such, you would have to look at the environment that they were in, geography, etc., doing digging, or you'd speak to those that were, you know, those that are living today, who were from their ancestors. So the Navajo, the Hopi of today, and you'd learn so much by speaking to them and learning about their life, their history, and the things that motivated them. The sports fan is really similar in the sense that when you're a bedside ethnologist, you're looking for a good story well told. When you're a sports fan and you think of a great something that, a great event that took place, the
Yeah.
Tyree catch during the Super Bowl against Brady, right? Way back when, against the
Yeah.
Patriots, that's it. And you tell that story, you see people's eyes light up because emotion kicks in. And that's a good story well told. And so I like working with fans in customer service for ESPN is working with the fans in the stands and the suits and the suites because they tell great stories and we want to bring them closer to what they love. So
Yeah.
I feel like where I started kind of was somewhat of a natural evolution to where I am today.
Yeah. I love that. What's next for you and for the team? Like, what are you guys working on?
Well, we're working on what everyone is working on in the beginning of 2025, and
Yeah.
that is trying to determine how we can, cram as much generative AI into everything we do, which I say that lightly. That's not our goal. Um, but looking to see how we can do better and look at the low hanging fruit where I can utilize generative AI to really enhance how I support the fan. And it's enhance, not replace, and we can talk through that
Yeah.
because humans really are what it's all about. But generative AI can do so much. So we're looking heavily at that because our products are constantly evolving and we're constantly entering kind of new spaces where customer service has to evolve.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a big thing what we're up to.
Yeah, I have some notes from that. Well, I want to get back into that in a minute. I just want to wrap here. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why we're talking. This is not the commercial part. I just want to kind of legitimize our chat, if you will. Um, you're running CX there. At Bridgepoint. You've engaged with the Bridgepoint team. Tell us a little bit about that work.
Yeah. Um, I in my world, for what I do, we're not an army of humanity. We just simply we aren't. We're customer service is primarily a cost center. Yes, can we do upsells and cross sells? Of course.
Yeah.
We're not exactly where I'd like us to be in terms of the technology stack to allow me to do that in terms of commerce, but we are an operating expense, and as such, I need to be successful through my relationships with partners, big and small, and I create a coalition of the willing where where my team force multiplies. We
Yeah.
become better and bigger and stronger through effective partnerships. And when it comes to my tech stack, which is a huge part of what I do, I really need expertise that's simply affordable. And not only that, but expertise that is elastic. When I look at Bridgepoint, you guys are experts in so many elements of the CCAS tech stack, not just voice. Obviously, you have data. You have, for example, if I look at, an omni-channel tech stack, SMS, chat, phone, email, web form, social, self-service, generative, all of these things back-ending into a business intelligence tool, back-ending that into Snowflake, the list goes on. It's hard
Yeah.
to keep I always refer to my tech stack as a tad angry. And I don't like to have an angry tech stack. I need to work with partners that understand the tech stack and can keep it calm. And they need to have a robust understanding across the CCAS omni-channel. And Bridgepoint does. Oh,
Well, that's
and
perfect.
Bridgepoint knows the BPO environment as well, which is core
Yeah.
to what I do.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you very much for that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's get back to. I mean, customer experience is so interesting because we used to say service and we said support and we put in this experience thing, and I think that's really important for brands who generally do kind of unattractive things. If you get where I'm going, right? You're like, I don't want this to feel like support. I want it to feel like an experience. But the reality of it, nobody wants to call about their wireless bill,
True.
not picking on the industry that you came from. But
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways, if people are engaging with you, they kind of want to talk to you. I would guess that they would many times. But let's just take it to the customer experience. Let's just talk about that phrase. What does that mean to you? I mean, you've mentioned, fan experience, but customer experience as an industry, define it for me. Like, and why have we changed the moniker?
Well, I think we're getting closer to the customer than ever before. The technology allows us to.
Yeah.
So, decades ago, companies used to be pretty far from the customer, which, the customer right now, I look at the opportunity for me to literally reach out and have the ability to converse with them and understand what matters to them. And oftentimes we're seeing level of effort is really what matters, right?
Yeah.
How much effort must I, the customer, exert to utilize your product? That is what it's all about. A service, a product, an experience that somebody pays for should be elegant. And I use that term a lot, elegant. And if we talk about what's elegant, um, in my mind, what I think may be elegant may be different, Scott, than what you think of as something
Yeah.
that's elegant. But the description of, it's something elegant. When I think of something elegant, I think something that I can relate to. It's easy to understand. It's intuitive. I appreciate it for what it is. It speaks to me. And that can be art. That can be functional. It can be an iPhone. It could be something at a museum. All of those things are things that relate to me. And so elegance is something where I like to say today, customer experience is allowing the company or the brand, I should say the brand, because I work in marketing, to have an elegant conversation with our clientele, our fans. One where we both understand the value of what I am offering and what you are expecting from us. And that
Yeah.
means your level of effort also should be as low as possible. And Scott, customer service is all about level of effort. No one likes calling. No one likes emailing. No one likes chatting or doing an SMS, right? Because you're waiting in queue. Then you have to state your situation. Big pain in the butt. So we're
Yeah.
constantly speaking to our fans at these events. So my team we're blessed. This is a fun part. We get to be at the events with the fans in the stands and the suits and the suites. We get to ask them, how is it that you're utilizing our service? And when you have an issue, and we go through examples, how are you reaching out to customer service? What are the issues that you experience? How would you wish to reach out to customer service? And we learn from them and we aggregate this. We utilize business intelligence tool sets, and we then determine what's the best way we should communicate directly with the fan because it's on their terms. They're
Yeah.
telling us. And that's most important, listening to them on their terms. And that's how we're able to make some really elegant communication tools because it's what they want. We listen to them.
Doug, for people that don't know, like the overall tech stack and product stack that you guys are supporting, just quickly to put this in a little bit of context, like some people may just be thinking it's ESPN, it's content. Like, what are the types of other types of products that you're engaging with customers on? Just for those who might not know the product
Yeah.
set as well.
So think of it as pillars. So, like my team, the core of what we offer is we have the watch pillar. So that's all things streaming services, your TV services through your direct to consumer like ESPN Plus, or your cable services, what we call MVPDs or digital MVPDs. Through Hulu plus live TV, YouTube TV. How are you getting your live sports and your sports channels and sports packages?
Hmm.
That's watch. Play. Play pillar. We offer multitude of fantasy games, fantasy football, baseball, basketball, hockey, mini games like Tournament Challenge, millions and millions of players. I have to support every player with regards to fantasy support. We have the read pillar, all things editorial. We're pushing out hundreds of articles every week on all things sports. We create dialogue, discussion, and debate. That's what ESPN does. I have to
Yeah.
support all of those and all the articles. Things that don't render correctly, incorrect players, incorrect teams, incorrect logos. There's tons of that. It just happens. I have to
Yeah.
support the engage pillar, social media moderation. So we have to moderate all the native social channels. And I have the listen pillar. Listen pillar is podcasts and radio stations that push ESPN.
Got
That's
it.
the products that we support.
Got it. Makes sense. So, as you're thinking about this forward, I mean, let's go back to, you mentioned AI earlier, and we spent quite a bit of time on our pre-call talking about, how you're thinking about it. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, you've mentioned AI as part of that plan. I think the question really is, the extent to which it's real and how are you using it today. So, just what are you thinking about as you're beginning to build AI into the support experience?
Yeah. So we're looking primarily, AI is so new, so new. No one, as a practitioner of customer service, or for example, anything, even in marketing, um, back when we were in school and doing what we did, and even with companies, really
Yeah.
understands the ins, outs, and abouts of generative AI. It's new to everybody. Our lawyers don't necessarily know the ins, outs, and they need to learn about this.
Yep.
Marketeers need to learn about this. Those in sales need to learn about it. So it's new to a lot. As such, it comes with a lot of promise. A lot of companies out there that are knocking on our door, that are offering us the miracle of what generative AI can offer.
Yeah.
And it's to the point of where it really is. I have to put a close for business sign up oftentimes because it's just overwhelming. So we're looking at generative AI in a way that I think many companies are. It's low hanging fruit to start, right? What can generative AI do that I would not want an army of my employees doing, because
Yeah.
it's more busy work, it's rote, etc. So successful examples of low hanging fruit AI would be things like using LLMs to translate product documentation, perhaps in different languages, using machine learning to build catalogs and categories for easy knowledge fetch, using classification algorithms, or even chatbots with personalized conversation elements, and even things like anomaly detection. Humans can do all of this. Oftentimes it takes a lot of humans to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking basically for any issue that involves a routine process or set template with a well-defined target. That's for generative AI.
Yeah.
Everything else is still human to human. Why? Look at the industry I'm in. And again, we talked about it's got being with the fans in the stands and the suits and the suites. I need to show my team, or they're sports fans just like you, when for example, Penn State loses, you know, we may have folks that feel what you're going through with, and I'm not saying they're going to lose, but if they do, or when they win,
You're
they're
not hoping.
going through the highs and the lows of
Yeah.
emotion because they've been there. AI
Yeah.
has never been there, never. So to have a conversation where we can leave something saying, you can always talk to ESPN. We're sports fans just like you. We haven't, might be a bigger lumbering sports fan, but we're
Yeah.
sports fans just like you. That's what AI cannot do.
Yeah. AI doesn't have empathy, right? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day,
No genuine empathy, correct. It can mimic.
yeah, right.
It doesn't have
Exactly.
genuine enthusiasm, excitement, or authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned on our pre-call, I like the phrase, I mean, you've kind of said it here thematically, but on our pre-call, you used the word, we're staying away from agentic work with AI.
Yes.
Um, and I obviously by that you mean, not replacing the agent, supporting them. I think you use the analogy like, if we can use it to make super soldiers, we're in
Yes.
better shape, right? But we're
Yeah.
not replacing the guys in the front line.
Correct. We're not. So agentic is conceivably where it's an autopilot. It's not a co-pilot. So
Yeah.
agentic is where there's no gatekeeper tracking, so to speak. watching over the AI. It's able to have a full
Yeah.
blown conversation, probably does, it can do commerce flow work. You can actually make decisions and make changes using RPA or something like that.
Yeah.
That's really, really, that can impact the brand in ways that may or may not be so good. Whereas right now, it's too much of a risk. And I don't necessarily feel there's a need for that because the human still can offer experiences where there's a response that can be a cathartic response from the fan that's so appreciative,
Yeah.
or one that allows them to feel assured, rest assured that we have your back. This will work. We're going to comp you if we need to. You'll be able to watch. You have to see no issues. We apologize, obviously, for any issues you may have experienced. We believe we've worked through this, and it's a human to human because, after all, they invested time and effort reaching out to you. So
Yeah.
I need to make sure if it's a human speaking to you, let's make them a superhuman. Use the generative AI to augment them, not be agentic. Copilot, we'll do a copilot. So the elegant things that generative AI can do, accurate knowledge fetch. The agent should never have to go to a knowledge
Get
base
it. Yeah.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
Based on rapid analysis of keyword extraction, rake, or whatever, a bunch of other things, lemmatization, etc. The generative AI should know, fetch this article and combine the two and make an elegant response for the agent. And it does. And we use
Yeah.
that. Also, other things, disposition and tagging. Why should the care agent at the end say this contact was about fantasy, then secondary, fantasy football, tertiary, fantasy football waiver wire? Based on the conversation and the words discussed, let the AI do that. And
Yeah.
lastly, summarization. Summarize the conversation to go back into our data lake because the agent shouldn't spend 2 minutes typing it up. And agents, that are of Gen Z and the younger Gen Y, they don't know how to type very well. They didn't
Yeah.
take typing like I did in high school. And so
Yeah.
it takes them a long time to summarize. AI, no time at all.
No time at all. You brought up an interesting point, and then I just want to kind of get into some fun at the end. But I think this is a good spot to go on AI. The conversations I'm constantly having. I mean, I get involved with customers who sort of think of AI and a large language model as a way to almost solve for bad documentation, right? They're like, well, we don't have the knowledge base is not well organized, so but I have all this call recording data, so let's turn the bot on and you know I felt like I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I ended up mentioning it in an intro to a pod that we're going to release in the next couple of days. Um, it was an interesting conversation where he said, if you didn't take advantage of the last hype cycle around big data, you're not prepared for this hype cycle around AI. Interested in your comment on that?
Well, I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Our data lake is massive.
Yeah.
And utilizing a BI tool like a Tableau, a Domo, etc. Uh,
Sure.
we're able to, so all the conversations we have, we're able to aggregate useful information from. And that's where we're able to immediately, find the needle in the so-called haystack in ways that would take an army of humanity beforehand. So I think we're already there. If you have a, you know, a, if you have all of this dark data that's not actionable, well, yeah, you've missed the boat. You have to go then to get to create a dynamic where you have a model that allows you to analyze the data that you've aggregated in tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of conversations
Yeah.
across the omni-channel. So yeah, you have to have been there in the last cycle of big data to be able to utilize that today. Yeah, if there are certain yes, you could have a somewhat disorganized knowledge base and have generative AI search that knowledge base and really pull out something organic, and it can do that.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. But there's many more elements that you need to do. So what we do is something called catharsis scoring. Um,
Okay.
a catharsis experience is like an aha experience. When you have a catharsis,
Yeah, yeah,
it's something that's an oh my god, an aha moment. Not necessarily good, not necessarily bad. It could be either, but that's where the gems are found. So with our cathartic scoring model, where we are using generative AI, we're able to utilize AI to search for example, really unique sentiment elements where we saw a dynamic change between when the conversation started and when the conversation ended based on what the fans said in their CSAT, customer satisfaction survey, and in the conversation that they
yeah,
had with the agent. And that aha moment, then we can deliver to our leadership, whatever department they may be in, executive leadership. And suddenly Care has a great seat at the table. We can say, these aren't coming from me, hear it from our fans directly. And when we share it with them, what is that we're sharing? A good story, well told. When the
yeah,
fans tells it in that way with emotion, we are able to get action in ways that in the past have been much harder
yeah,
because I was able to find that needle in that haystack almost instantaneously.
yeah. That's
Whereas it would have
amazing.
taken forever to get it beforehand, and by then we'd be on fighting a different fire.
Yeah. Doug, this was super fun. Before we close, I would love to just hit you with a couple of fun questions that I
Yeah,
generally hit people with. So maybe this one's not so much fun. But it's a good bridge from the tech talk into the fun. Give me a shameless prediction for the next 12 to 18 months. It doesn't need to be about tech. It can be. It doesn't need to be about sports, but it can be. Whatever. I want to look back in a year, and we'll see if you were right.
well, I would say I'll stick with generative AI. I do
Yeah, sure.
believe
Yeah,
it's a little bit like the tulip craze of the 1630s. There are so many companies out there that are all about agentic. I'm not going to name them, but there's so many. And with that, there is a gap. We are still, as clients of theirs, living in a world of humanity supporting humanity, right? Agentic isn't an answer by itself, right? There needs to be a solution that supports the full tech stack. And that tech stack is primarily run on like Salesforce, ServiceNow,
yeah,
Zendesk, NiceX1, whatever, and Genesis. You can't just replace that with something agentic. So I think you're going to see a giant, we're at really high levels of speculation now with generative AI. And the tulip
sure.
craze, like tulips didn't really do anything for humanity. But Gen AI actually can in a positive way. So it is different. Um, it's got to be something that is more manicured, and it's not there yet in terms of how can I use it and bring it in. Now, all the companies I just mentioned, they are launching generative AI solutions too, but there's a ton that aren't them that are doing it as well. There's going to be a giant shakeout, and I think you're going to see in 12 to 18 months far fewer numbers of providers of this service, and much better, more manicured solution. I mean that I think is a given. Um,
Yeah.
I think yeah, I think that's a big one. Other than that, prediction wise, streaming, I wish I could say, is going to be easier for you to, as the fan, to you find what you're looking for. But I fear bundle fog. The like you're
Yeah.
buying different bundles is still going to be around, and
Yeah.
it's my team's job to help eliminate bundle fog and bundle confusion. Where can I watch this? When can I watch this?
Yeah.
Is it on ESPN? Is it on Peacock? Is it on Paramount? Is it on
Yeah.
Amazon? Oh my goodness. And we're working to solve for that. But there's so much dynamic change in the industry. I worry that bundle fog may, in fact, a year from now, still be present. But
Yeah.
dang, I'm going to be doing everything I can to change that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely deal with it as an early cord cutter. I appreciate that. I haven't had a content bundled with my cable service for about 15 years. So
Yeah, and
I'm with
look,
you.
good luck
Uh,
finding, where do you watch the NFL? Yeah, that game could be on Amazon. That game
yeah.
could be on Netflix. That game could be on ESPN. Could be on CBS. Could be on Peacock. That's
Who
a
knows? Yeah,
challenging dynamic. Where
it
to
definitely.
watch in the moment when you want to watch. We want to fix that.
Gotcha. Tell me something that you know and you practice in your day to day executive work and as a business leader that you really wish you knew 15 years ago.
I I carry around a line level, um, and
Okay.
those who know me know this. So a little line level. When you're trying to hang up a picture, if you don't have a
Yeah.
laser, and honestly, who does? I guess cell phones will soon be able to have an app that does that, and they might already.
Hmm.
Um, but a line level, but it's for the analogy. The line level always had an old school line level is water with a bubble in the middle, and when you're trying to put the picture up, the bubble needs to be in the middle, and if it is, your picture will be straight. I live my life, and this is from an old leader that I had who I thought was wonderful. Um, to me, the only thing that matters in work really is it's a tripod. It's feeling valued and challenged. It's people and it's pay. Right, those three things. Um, and I, as a leader, kind of control all of that. So I need to make sure that for my employee base, their emotional state is in the as close to the middle as possible. Right, work life balance is always something where you want that bubble to be as close to the middle. It's very hard, and so I'm constantly and I give a line level to my employees as a representation of you need to
Super
speak
cool.
to me when you're concerned that your bubble is no longer in the middle. I want to make sure that I can sense when your bubble is no longer in the middle because I need to understand what am I doing with regards to is there a people problem? Are you feeling motivated, valued, and challenged? Is it a pay problem? Or is it something more personal on the home family side, personal side that we need to address? So I'm very open in regards to being transparent on that front. And early on, those skills, you don't really learn until you're, facing the fire and stepping on those hot coals. And having a leader that allowed me to share this information, my truths with them by giving me that line level, I do the same. And it makes the conversation
Mm.
more approachable. And employees appreciate that. And I certainly do too. And I think that truly helps. So that's valuable.
Doug, you know what I love about that is not just the analogy, which I love the analogy, but the idea of giving your employees like a common context by which to have the uncomfortable conversation. Like I think the hardest part for employees in a situation like that is they don't know how to start the conversation, right? So if you give everybody that common context, you're like, I'm sure somebody just feels comfortable walking up to you and going, my life is not level. My bubble's not in the middle right now. Like at
Correct.
least, it gives them a way to open a really difficult conversation that listen, if you're not used to difficult conversations, it's really hard to start one. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I love that as not just an analogy, but sort of a safe space, shared experience for everybody. I totally dig that. Um, what are you reading right now? You have something interesting that we could put in the liner notes?
Um, Thomas Pynchon's Against the Day is a
Okay.
really, really difficult read. And I've always wanted to um, try one of his books. They're like
Okay.
monsters. Um, but, it's really interesting read and it's very hard. I don't know if I'll ever finish it. Um,
So
so,
it's just constantly on your end
but
table,
it's a
right?
fascinating read about um, this club of young kids that are balloon adventurers at the time, the late 1800s, when ballooning was taking off, and the United States was in a time of strife. Unions were just starting. Union busting was brutal. The Industrial Revolution was upon us, about to begin. Time was really changing, and it was a fascinating time to kind of see the United States through the eyes of these kids, of these adventurers, kind of like the Huckleberry Finns of a little bit
Yeah.
later. And it's really cool to see what the adventures are. Incredibly difficult writing though, but so far I love it. Really, I
Fantastic.
love good stories well told, and this
Good
is something
stories
that
well
I
told.
just find to be really good storytelling.
All right, one last fun question. The what the some dystopian future descends on us. You can decide which one depending on what
Oh
kind of
God.
movies you like, right? But there's one app that's still functioning on your phone. You get to choose which one. Which one is it?
Oh my goodness. An
And you
app.
don't get to say the ESPN app, by the way. That
Yeah.
would be the obvious answer.
No, no, no. Well, the ESPN app wouldn't really, if there would have to be other humans because it functions on sports related
100%.
events. So I
Yes.
can't say that. So assuming it still worked, it would have to be Pinterest or Instagram because I use Instagram to as almost like Pinterest. I have specific interests, right? So I love studying. I love vintage guitars and basses.
Hmm.
Vintage Gibsons made between 1952 and 1960. And I love to learn everything about them and how and the woods that were used and how they sound. And I'll still have that interest. So to be able to understand and learn more, because that's all that's going to be left, a curious mind. I want to retain that curious mind, and the way to keep that curiosity is through learning through other people's stories. So even if they're old and those people are dead, I could still learn their stories from what's on uh, a little bit of TikTok. TikTok's a little different, but mainly
Yeah.
Instagram and Pinterest. But so more Instagram than Pinterest.
Good news is even if new content is not being made, it'll take you the rest of your life to get through what's out
That's
there.
exactly
So
right. So I would
uh,
I would work with that.
I love that. Remind me to send you a picture of my grandfather's 1918 Epiphone Dreadnought that's hanging on my wall on the other side here. It's you could tell me all about the woods. Super cool. I had to have the bridge remade in
Yeah.
ebony that cracked.
All of
Great
I
stuff.
mean, that's early Gibsons, even pre Lloyd Loar,
Yeah,
who was I think 1919 to 1920, some like 24,
yeah,
25, where he made those famous F5 mandolins and all of
yeah,
that. But yeah, that's an incredible time period for stringed instruments with Gibson.
yeah. That's amazing.
Love it.
Well, Doug, this has been like super amazing. What a great conversation. I completely appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me here on this episode of The Bridge.
Thank you, Scott. The pleasure is all mine. I do appreciate the time.
You got it. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Listen, if you made it this far, there must have been some good content, or you're just a fan or a relative of mine. In either case, we appreciate you spending your most valuable asset with us, your time. We don't take that lightly. We'd also like to say one more time that we're appreciative of Bridgepoint Technologies and their belief and sponsorship of this show. We hope that if you or someone you know is thinking about your company's digital transformation, or simply the next IT project that you may not have the resources, budget, or time to get to, I'm sure that Bridgepoint, one of the country's fastest growing technology advisory and procurement firms, can help. Check out bridgepointtechnologies.com. Don't forget the E on Bridgepoint, or simply reach out to me at Skinka, SKINKA, at bpt3.net. Also take a minute, please, if you would, to give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. It helps give us the visibility to reach other people like you. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Bridge. I'm Scott Kinka, and until next time, there's a lot of noise out there in business and in life. Do what you can to be the signal. Thanks.